Okay, so I wanted to do a few examples of this Khan Academy on finding simple interest. We're not only finding simple interest here, we're using the simple interest formula to solve for missing pieces here. So you'll see in this problem here, it says find the annual rate of interest. This one, it wants us to find the rate, okay? So the rate is a part of the interest formula. So for simple interest, there are a few things that we need to know. So to calculate simple interest, the interest is equal to the principal, which is the starting amount, times the rate, times the time. And the time represents how much time the principal has been either borrowed or invested in a savings account or something like that. That's what the time represents. And then in addition to the simple interest, once you find the interest, you want to know your ending balance, which is also just the total. So after you know the interest, what you want to do is take the principal and add the interest to that. And then that will tell you either how much total that you've saved if you were investing this money, or how much total you owe back if you were borrowing this money and have to pay interest to somebody for borrowing it. Okay? So now looking over here, I see that we're given the principal is 7,800 rupees. Okay, so this is P. And again, rupees is just another form of money. It's the currency in India. So instead of dollars, which is the currency here in America, we're working with rupees here. Okay. And then the period, that is time. So anytime you see period, that is time. Okay, you can also see since it says 7 years, you're like, oh yeah, that's time, right? That's how much time has passed. So in this case, ours is 7. And this one's different. It gives us the total amount, or what I just said was the ending balance. That would be this. Oh my gosh, I'm having major yawn attacks. 11,349. We need to find the rate. Okay? So, first of all, we know the ending balance. So I'm going to say I need you guys to make sure to write this down. We're going to use this a lot. Okay? So if you have not yet, pause this video and write that down. So we know that our total, or the ending balance, is equal to the principal plus the interest. So we know that the ending balance is 11,349. And we know that our principal was 7,800. But we don't know what our interest was. So our interest is whatever we add to the principal to get the total here. So we're just going to write a plus I. And now I have a simple equation, one step to solve for I, so then I know my interest. And then I can use that in this formula here to solve for my rate. So what I can do is subtract 7,800 from both sides. Okay, so these two cancel out. I'm left with I on the right side. And 11,349 minus 7,800. You can definitely use a calculator. I'm just going to do it by hand, but definitely use a calculator to check your work. Okay, so we should get about 3,549. Okay, so that would be our interest. That is what we added to the principal to get the total amount. So now what we know is we know the interest. We know this. So now we can use that in that formula there. I equals PRT, where each of those pieces are being multiplied together. Okay, so now I have my interest, I know, is 3,549. I just solved for that. My principal is 7,800. The rate, I don't know what the rate is. That's the one thing I'm solving for. But I do know that the time is 7. So these things are all being multiplied here. 7,800 times R times 7. So what we can do here is multiply together the 7,800 times 7. And I get 51,600. Again, you can definitely use a calculator for that. Oh wait, not 51. 7 times 7 is 49, plus 5 is 54. I'm going to do that in a calculator just to make sure. So here I have 7,800, times 7. Yeah, good, 54,600. And then just to make sure, I'm going to do this in the calculator as well. So there I had 11,349 minus 7,800. 3,549. Yes, okay, good. Perfect. It's really important to always check your work. So now what we end up with is once we multiply these two together, we have 3,549 equals 54,600 times the rate. So now you want to look at this and say, okay, how do I solve for the rate? How am I going to get that? Well, let me just rewrite this here so I have more room. Well, we know that 3,549 is equal to 54,600 times the rate. To undo that multiplication here, we have to divide both sides by 54,600. Because it divided by itself is just 1, so I'm left with 1R. So now I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator. I have 3,549 divided by 54,600. And I get 0.065. 0.65. So that is our rate, but they want it written as a percentage. So in order to write this as a percentage, you can either move the decimal to the right 2 times, or you can also just multiply the 0.065 times 100. And that is the exact same thing as moving that decimal to the right 2 times. So now our rate we know is 6.5. So this rate is 6.5%. Okay. So pause this video if you need to get the rest of this down. Go and check my work, 6.5. And the percent sign's already there, so you don't want to write it again. Just leave it as it is. 6.5. There we go. Okay, let's see what the next question brings. This time we want to find the principal. Okay, so again, with simple interest, we know that I equals the principal times the rate times time. And that our total balance, right, our total balance at the very end is the principal plus the interest. So let's just see what we have here. So we're given the rate is 11%. Annual means yearly. So once a year, the rate is at 11%, okay, or throughout the year. All right. So this 11%, we need to write that as a decimal. To go from a percent to a decimal, we move the decimal place back 2 spots. Or you can divide 11 by 100, because every percent is out of 100. So you see there it's 0.11 or 11 hundredths. So my rate is 0.11. The period is the time. Our time is 3 years. And then it gives us the total interest, which is this I, the big I, that's the interest, is 825 rupees. Now it wants us to find the principal. Okay, so what it wants us to find here is this principal. Now I was not told the total ending balance. Whoops. I don't know what that is, so this will do nothing to help me. This equation here, I don't need to use that with this problem. I just need to use my interest formula. I equals the principal times the rate times the time. Okay? I need to try to find the principal. I don't know it yet, but I do know the interest is $825. I don't know the principal, so I'll leave that as a variable P. I know my rate is 0.11. And then my time is 3 years. So now we have an equation that we can solve. This looks a little weird. It looks like it's 0 times 11 times 3. So I recommend putting parentheses. So now you see, oh, it's 0.11 times 3. So be very careful with your work there. So I want to first multiply those two together. So I have 825 equals P times, we need to do 0.11 times 3. And we get 0.33. So now I have to solve for P, which means I need to undo that multiplication that's happening between P and 0.33. So I'm going to divide both sides by this 0.33 to undo that multiplication and leave P by itself. So now I'm left with P equals, we'll go ahead and do 825 divided by 0.33. I get 2,500. So my original amount that I invested was 2,500 rupees. Okay, so please pause the video if you need to get the rest of these notes down. Okay, there we go. And I'll do one more for you. All right, this one we're trying to find the time, it looks like. Okay, so once again, everything we know about simple interest. Whoa, that's not how you spell interest. There we go. So I know that interest is calculated. Interest is equal to the principal times the rate times the time. And we get a total ending balance by adding our principal plus the interest. Okay, so let's see what we're given here. I see we have the principal is 5,300. We know the annual rate of interest is 6.5%. If we rewrite that as a decimal, 6.5%, you move the decimal back 2 times. So I mean, I know it has a decimal there. So basically you're rewriting it as the rate to be multiplied or the multiplier versus the percentage. So you can also, again, divide 6.5 divided by 100 if you want to see what it would be written as without the percentage. So it's 0.065. So it's good. I know my rate and I know the total amount or the total ending balance is 6,678. So I know that I'm going to have to use this first to find some more information to help out with my interest formula above, I equals PRT. So I know my total balance at the end is 6,678. Do I know the principal? Yes, I know the principal here is 5,300. And I do not know the interest. So I need to know at least 3 out of the 4 pieces in this formula in order to solve for the time, okay? So I don't know the interest. So now I can subtract the principal from both sides. to find my interest. So the interest will equal, just subtracting this, 1,378. So that is what I need to fill in the rest of that interest formula in order to solve for my time. So time, again, is the period. That's what it means. Especially once you see years, you're like, oh yeah, that's time. That's what I'm talking about there. So we know interest equals the principal times the rate times the time. We know now that the interest is 1,378. We know that the principal up here is 5,300. We know that the rate is 0.065, and we do not know t. We do not know the time, and that's what they're asking for. So now what I can do is multiply these two together. So I can do 5,300 times 0.065. I get 344.5. Let me make sure I put that in right. Yeah, 5,300. Perfect. Okay. So that in money, right, talking about money, is $344.50 rupees. Okay, as long as I think they calculate cents as well with rupees, but I'm thinking about dollars as well. So, whoops, we'll leave that as 344.5. We still don't know t, still along for the ride. Okay, so now we have 1,378 equals 344.5 times t. So to undo that multiplication there, we need to divide both sides. There we go. Divide both sides by 344.5 to undo that multiplication times t to solve for t. Okay, so here if I go to my calculator, I have 1,378 divided by, I think it was 344.5. That came out very nicely. Our answer is 4. Okay, so that means our time is 4 years. So here we got t equals 4. Okay, so pause the video if you did not get this down. So it would be 4. Yep, there we go. So make sure that you are practicing this. You will not see this hard of problems on your Chapter 8 exam, but you will have to know how to calculate simple interest and the total ending balance. Okay? Email me if you need any more help.